Back in the day, in a small town of Scarborough, on the eastern part of the city of Toronto, Canada, there lived an elderly woman called Emma. She lived with her son, Alan, his wife, Rose, and grandkids, David and Stella. In 2020, a deadly virus started to spread fast. It mainly attacks seniors. Rose, Emma's in-law, often got angry at her husband, Alan, pushing him to kick Emma out of the house, citing that Emma could be a carrier. One evening, as Alan returned home from work, he found Rose yelling and scolding Emma for merely not closing the washroom door. Alan was dismayed, as this is not the kind of behavior or treatment he wanted his mother to endure. He further got to learn from the kids, David and Stella, that their mother often locked Grandma in her bedroom and did not feed her for the whole day whenever their dad was on business trips. When Alan tried to speak with Rose about this, she threatened to leave and take the children with her. She further demanded that Emma be thrown out of the house. However, Alan refused to adhere to her threats, and Emma stayed. The situation worsened. Rose constantly picked on Emma, called her names. "You are good for nothing. You are useless and a burden to my family." One afternoon, Emma needed assistance to get off the floor. Rose pretended to give her a hand, but held her so tight that she left a bruise on Emma's hand. Emma did not tell anyone or show anyone the bruise on her hand. She was frightened, nervous, scared, because she had nowhere to go, even if she wanted to leave. Luckily for Emma, there was a door-to-door sensitization campaign about the prevention of elder abuse and violence against women in COVID-19, organized by the Red Cross Society Canada within the area. A young lady knocked on the door. Emma opened, and like the expert that she is, she was able to notice the scars and marks on Emma's wrists, face, and arms. She insisted that Emma tells her what has been going on in her life. This young lady shared a story about her own domestic violence experience at the hands of her husband. It is then that Emma felt comfortable enough to open up to her about the violence she was suffering in her son's home at the hand of her in-law. She comforted Emma and encouraged her to speak up and seek help. The social worker also requested to speak with Emma's family. Rose admitted her mistake and begged Emma and the whole family for forgiveness. She promised to give Emma the respect she deserves. Today, Emma is happy, and she wants every senior to know their rights. She is glad she was finally able to break her silence. Break the silence in COVID-19. Join us on a journey of series of 10 workshops live on Facebook and YouTube during October and November 2020. Organized by Artisans Development and Network. Funded by Canadian Red Cross. For more information, artisanartisans.org/events. info@artisanartisans.ca.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? I welcome you officially to today's edition of Break the Silence in COVID-19, a series brought to you by the one and only Artisans Development and Network, who are here with the support of the Red Cross Canada. You're most welcome. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday afternoon. And my name is Gloria Gift Nankunda. This is the second of the 10-week series that we're going to be carrying out for the length of October and the whole of November. You must be wondering, what is this about? Well, this workshop is going to be, we are going to be hearing, we're going to be sharing, we are going to be discussing the prevention of elderly abuse as well as violence against women, especially through this lockdown. If you missed us yesterday, we were very lucky to hear from Dr. Rasha Wahid as well as our host Rachel Cruz and a performer by the names of Rachel Striker. And the same sequence is going to be happening today. We are carrying this out on all throughout the weekends of October and November. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of you, and I encourage all of you to follow us on our social media, that is on the Artisans Development Network social media pages, be it Facebook, be it Instagram. Please, we encourage you to join us. Today, we are going to be hearing from another expert, a psychotherapist, as well as a family intervention worker by the names of Eddie Jumba, and as well as another performer by the names of Paramita Kara. It is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that a lot is happening in the world, and as far as elderly abuse and violence against women is concerned, it has literally doubled in the numbers when it comes to this lockdown. And that is why Arts and Artisans has made it their mandate to carry out such a discussion so that we are able to share information. So please, if you've got any questions in regards to the topic today, feel free to send it in our comments. We shall be sharing some of these comments, and later on, we shall also be having a Q&A with our expert today, and he will be answering some of your questions. Just so you know, Arts and Artisans has been here since 2014, and they provide resources to community development at festivals, at all events. And of course, it is the lockdown. So this is one of the series that we are doing virtually. And once again, we thank you so much for joining us. The mission statement is that Arts and Artisans Development Network's mission is to provide support and opportunities for economic and social development to artists and artisans of all artistic practices who are especially new in Canada or from other visible minority groups. Our vision is to create a platform that brings awareness to underprivileged, underrepresented members of the community. Together, we will promote intercultural understanding, collaboration, as well as community building. As you can tell, this whole series is focused on making our communities better, especially looking after our elderly people, as well as preventing violence against women. Once again, I welcome you. You're very, very welcome. Visit and subscribe to our YouTube page, as well as our Facebook and our Instagram. Without further ado, we're going to start off today's series with a one-of-a-kind performer. The name is Paramita Kara. She is a Toronto-based dance artist who is the first to complete a PhD in dance here in Canada at the University of York. She's a performer of different world dance styles. She attributes her core training in dance into classical Indian Odissi dance. Paramita was generally introduced to Central Asia dance styles in 2008 and has worked under the celebrated visiting choreographers from Iran to tour at different dance styles. She's right now active and a full-time performer of dances in Central Asia, South Asian and Middle Eastern heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a lead dancer of the ensemble Topaz, which is a Toronto-based integrated dance music group here in Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, Paramita Kara to start us off. You're very welcome. Wow, wow, Paramatakara. Beautiful, beautiful dancing. Thank you so much. And just in case you want to reach out to her as well, you can follow Paramatakara on all of her social media pages. Look out for her to enjoy more of these dances and, of course, just being a part of today's performance. She also currently holds an Ontario Arts Council with deeper understanding of the Iranian heritage dances. That's amazing. Well, Paramatakara, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. And just so you must be wondering, who are some of these people that have been behind, you know, behind this series? First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge with special thanks Canadian Red Cross. I want to, of course, acknowledge the government of Canada. Also acknowledge our member of parliament, that is Salma Zahid, not forgetting our member of provincial parliament, Christina Meters. It is a pleasure, and of course, we continue to welcome you once again. This is the Break the Silence in COVID 19 series discussing the prevention of elderly abuse as well as domestic violence against women during this lockdown. Brought to you by the Artists and Artisans Development and Network, funded by the Red Cross Canada, and of course, PR and Arts Management, brought to you by Kisha Productions Inc. Such a pleasure. And I just want to know, did you know that about 275 million children are exposed to violence in their homes? We're talking about the effects being difficulty in learning, limited social skills, as well as violent behavior and depression. Well, today we happen to have a worker who is one of here in Toronto. He is a leader as a child protection worker here in Toronto, Ontario, and he's going to be talking about a little bit about that by the names of Eddie Jumba. He is born in Uganda and, of course, raised his family here in Canada. He holds a master's in divinity and clinical counseling, that is psychotherapy, from Tyndale University, as well as a bachelor's of arts in social sciences from Makerere University in Uganda, and a postgraduate diploma in autism and behavior science from Seneca College. So we're talking about somebody who's trained in various fields like applied suicide intervention, skills training by Assisted Living Canada, abuse investigation, as well as intimate partner violence. So we're talking to somebody who's going to be sharing a little bit more about that. And he has been working passionately on the front line in the social work and mental health field for over 15 years. Eddie he's also shaped by the core belief that all human beings bear intrinsic value and are equal in value, in dignity, in the very best way with every single person. Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the one and only Eddie Jumba. You're most welcome.
Thank you, my sister Gloria. Thank you for that warm welcome.
We apologize in case there is just a little bit of a technical glitch. Yes, there you are. Pastor Eddie, how are you?
I am very well, thanks, Gloria. How are you
You are
yourself?
most welcome. You're very,
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Well, I would like to first of all welcome you. Thank you for stepping in right now and for taking your time to share with us whatever you're going to prepare for us today.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be participating in this very
You
important
are very
discussion.
welcome.
So there's a big gap, Gloria. I don't know. There's a big gap between when you speak and when I hear you.
Well, I take this moment to say, just share with us a little bit more about you from the horse's mouth. Yes, I've introduced you, I've read your bio, but just talk to us just a little bit about you.
Yes. Well, I'll gladly do that. First of all, I want to extend my very deep felt thanks to the organizers of this. I know such things don't just happen. I'm sure there are people who have taken some specific steps to see that we have such a beautiful arrangement. So I definitely start right there by extending my gratitude. And to encourage you that if you have no reason to continue, please continue, because even if it's one person that gets changed in this session, that is reason enough. Because all the things, especially when we talk about abuse, which is something that is very dear to my heart, most of the abuse that has been overcome, it's been overcome because people spoke up, because somebody moved from just talking about it to taking some action. So I encourage you, the organizers of this, that continue to do this. You are doing the right thing. You're doing a good thing. And I know that many people will benefit. I myself, I have benefited already from just participating in the preparations of this. So I thank you. Like Gloria said, my name is Eddie, and I am a senior pastor at one of the churches in Toronto. It's a community church called Dominion Church. But when I'm not on the pulpit, I am a father of two awesome boys. I'm a husband of one wife. I'm also employed by a place I'm very honored to work for. It's called York Children's Aid Society, which has really given me so much exposure to a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about here. But also in general, when you are privileged to do the work of a counselor, you have this daunting privilege to see so many things that go on in families, and I will be bringing a lot of that in this conversation. But for the most part, I trust and I hope, my big hope is that you don't leave this conversation the same way you came. You leave this conversation challenged enough, inspired enough, motivated enough to participate in the solution. Thank you.
Yes, we would. It's such a pleasure. First and foremost, thank you for the work that you're doing. And as far as we welcome you and just your background. When I was reading the numbers when we're doing our research, and I found out that over 275 children have been exposed to violence, and these numbers have gone up based on the lockdown so far. Just basing on that and just starting us from there, would you please go ahead with your talk? I'm looking forward to learning, first of all, as a psychotherapist and as a family intervention worker, how has that impacted you as a human and the kind of work that you
Mm,
have done?
yeah.
Please go ahead and
Uh,
share with us, and you can continue on with your talk. Thank you very much, and you're most welcome once again.
thank you very much. How has my work impacted me as a human being? We don't even have enough time to get to to the full answer to that question, but it's a question that I appreciate. So I thank you for opening up that way, because it's true that things we do, whether we are aware or not, they impact us. Where we hang out, things we believe in, they impact us in a very personal and deep ways. How has my role impacted me? Starting with the number you just quoted there, the number about how many children have been impacted by domestic violence or adult conflict, we call it sometimes. It is very unfortunate. It is very saddening. It is gross. Sometimes it's disgusting, for the lack of another word. To know, Gloria, to know, whoever is listening in to today, to know the the evil or the inappropriate treatment or behaviors that sometimes go on in families at the hands of people that are supposed to be the source of love, at the hands of people that are supposed to be the source of care. How has that impacted me? So a part of my life is also that I am a believer. I am a Christian, and I'm aware of this very sad situation that all of us, we do have the propensity or the capacity to do bad things. So when I see that kind of thing lived out as I move from one home to another, it is for me, it's a piece of evidence that it is true what we say about human beings, that we are able to do really, really, really bad things. So it breaks my heart to know, but it humbles me, and it reminds me to do my absolute best as a human being, regardless of how much education you can get or I can get, to always remember to first of all celebrate the human beings in the people. That, to the point that once you have allowed yourself to celebrate the human being in the person, now it is going to be very difficult for you to bring yourself to a place of abusing that person. So, what has happened to me as in the course of my work, to your question, Gloria, as I keep on going from one incident to another, it has reminded me of how true it is that very evil things can happen in the homes. I want to achieve this one thing, or maybe more than one thing in this conversation. If I don't get 2 more minutes. If this is the only 1 minute that I have in this session, Gloria and all that are listening to me right now, if there's one thing that I hope that we achieve in this conversation, it is this. I want to give you a layman's definition of the word abuse. I want to give you a layman's definition of the word abuse so that as you leave this conversation, you cannot say to yourself or say to someone else that, oh, I don't know what they were talking about. I want to give it to you in a very layman's language so that you cannot go after this conversation saying that, oh, I don't know what they are talking about. Today, we are talking about elder abuse. We are talking about violence against women. We are talking about intimate, intimate partner violence. That is violence that happens to people that you know, people that are within your family, people that are supposed to be giving you care. Here is the definition. If you take nothing, this is what I hope you can take as a way of motivating yourself and inspiring yourself to do something about elder abuse. Here it is. Elder abuse or abuse of any form is treating our family members or people in ways that would be unacceptable to treat a stranger. I'm going to say that one more time. The thing we are talking about today is abuse. And what does that mean? It means treating our loved ones in ways that would be unacceptable if we treated strangers with those same ways. So I want you to know uh, that what we are talking about today, it's not called, some of it could qualify to be a criminal activity, but it's unfortunately not called that because it is done at the hands of people who are supposed to be caring for the person that is receiving this violation or this abuse. I can give you, I wish I was able to interact here with you, Gloria, but I wanted to give you an example. Can you come back? Can we have a minute here where we are talking to each other? I want to be able to see you here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. I want
Yes.
to give you an example so that I illustrate what I'm trying to say, because this is the one thing that I hope everybody from here,
Mm.
even if I don't have, if you say to me, Eddie, you have 1 more minute, that's it. I hope that they take this one definition.
Absolutely.
I want you to take this example. Let's say you come to Dominion Church and you have a conversation with, let's say, Brother Brahim or someone, a brother, anyone there,
Mm.
and you disagree. Because the scenario I'm painting is a classical scenario in a home. People disagree in homes. I'm
Absolutely.
sure you disagree with people you live with every now and then. Not like all the time, but that's sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes. But imagine that after the disagreement or following the disagreement, Brahim punches you in the face. When he does that, this case is going to be taken up so seriously. Probably the entire community is going to know, whoever was there is going to be shocked, to be alarmed of what just happened. You are probably going to be saying to Pastor, we need to call the police. This incident just happened. But guess what happens, Gloria? The thing I just described is exactly what happens in so many homes, and people have learned to be okay with it. Now, when I say people, I mean both sides, the
Yes.
perpetrator and also the victim. They have learned to be okay with it. We have learned to be okay with treating people in ways that would completely be unacceptable if we treated strangers like that. So if you have a grandmother that you live with, and for you slapping her every now and then, or denying her food, or containing her in a room by herself, if those things have become okay, that is what we are talking about when we talk about abuse. Because guess what? If you do anything that even looks slightly like that to a stranger, it is going to be taken up as a big case. So as you realize here about this is a subject that is very dear to my heart, because this is what I see as I go from one place to another. I also have the privilege of working as a chaplain every now and then. So I hear the stories of people in the hospital as this old lady talks to you about what has been going on for a long time.
Mm.
So if you take nothing, I hope that you take this definition and you let it bother you enough to know that, you know what, if a stranger is not going to be okay with this action,
Mhm.
maybe I should not be doing this to my loved one, to my wife,
Absolutely.
to my
Absolutely.
spouse, to my grandmother, to my sister, when we, to my girlfriend or boyfriend. Because when we talk about intimate partner violence, we don't only talk about domestic violence in the traditional sense of how people know it. They only know it as a husband and wife or somebody you live with. Sometimes girlfriends will talk to you about the abuse that has been at the hands of people or their boyfriends or the other way around.
Mhm.
But today I'm aware that we are specifically talking about violence against women and elder abuse. I just wanted to illustrate that so that it sinks home. And if I don't get to any of the other things, at least I get to that.
I think you've done great. And I love the fact that you're breaking it down to suit the person on the ground, the layman person, because we're talking to the experts, and we might get lost in what the statistics are, but some people don't even know what that means. So
Mhm.
it is great. I love that you've broken it down. When you say that your boyfriend has just shoved you, why should it be okay for him to shove you when if he shoved a stranger, the police would be
It
called,
will be a serious case.
of assault. So I'm glad that you've really broken it down. And, I have somebody, Mirembe said that it is totally unacceptable, as you were making your talk, Mirembe said it is totally unacceptable for us to treat to treat our loved ones as if they were strangers. That's what
So
you
it's even
commented.
worse. We
Absolutely.
treat them
Mm.
in ways that we would not even treat strangers. Because if we treated strangers that way, it will be taken up as an offense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even worse what she's describing there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
please go on.
that's something I wanted to really emphasize. And also, I wanted to quickly talk about the different forms of elder abuse, but also when you think of abuse in general, you can also remember that, especially when we talk about violence against women, we are really talking about control. We are talking about power and control.
Mm-hmm.
The person who is perpetrating the abuse, really, they have one motive and goal in purpose, in plan, and that is to have control, to exert control over the person that they are violating.
Mm-hmm.
But if time allows, I'll get to that. But I want to specifically talk about uh, the different forms of elder abuse. So one of the most common ones is physical abuse. Now, how do you know that? As I talk about the forms, I will also be quickly talking about how you can identify that, so that we don't leave this conversation saying we really don't know what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways, the very key telling things that this elder person might be experiencing abuse is some explained bruises. In the video that we watched at the beginning, there was a moment where when the daughter came, well,
The in-law,
pretending,
the in-law.
when the in-law was trying to
Yes.
help the old lady to get up, she squeezed her so tight to the point that she left a mark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these unexplained bruises are usually a very telling sign that something inappropriate is going on, some kind of abuse is going on for this person. The other form of abuse, which is, I think, more common than what people might imagine, is financial abuse. And I'll give you some subtle examples, but they are so common as we go into these homes. And then this old lady describes for you the predicament, the financial predicament they are in.
Mm-hmm.
I give you an example, one of the most classical ones. These, these grandchildren. So these grandchildren, they go and make really some terrible choices, and they sometimes end up in trouble where they require lots of money, or sometimes they completely make up the story. It's a very common thing. So they call grandma, and they act that they are in a panic. They are calling grandma, and they're saying, grandma, if you don't somehow make $5,000 available for me, I am going to jail. These are very common things that are happening. Some people don't know that this is happening. And poor grandma now is thinking, no, I can't picture my grandchild in jail. I just can't picture my grandma goes and makes that money available somehow. Now this becomes apparent. By
Yes.
the time we get to hear of this conversation, if we do, Grandma is talking about big chunks of money that have left her account or his account, if it's a grandpa. And this, when it goes on, even though this boy might think, or this girl might think they're being smart, no, they're not being smart. They're abusing this old lady or this old man
Absolutely. Taking
financially.
advantage. They're
They're
taking
taking
advantage
advantage
of the
of,
love.
yes, of the love. They're
Exactly.
abusing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're abusing it. Uh, the other form of elder abuse is emotion abuse.
Mm.
This comes usually in forms of threats. They threaten, oh, if you don't do ABCD, I'm gonna throw you in a nursing home and will never come visit you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of threats. Isolation.
Mm-hmm.
They actually isolate them. This is a very common one as well. Confinement. They confine them in places that are like a basement. They turn off the
Mm-hmm.
lights and they just leave them there for the whole day. These are these are things that are done in homes.
Mm.
These are things that are done in homes.
We're not just hearing about this. This is a reality. This is
This is a
someone's reality.
reality.
Somebody's reality today. And
This is
I'm
somebody's
glad that
reality.
we are discussing it now because, I just have here a comment from Ella. She says, that's true. Most financial abuse is perpetuated by family members. And another comment, she also talks about abandonment. That's what you were talking
Mm,
about, isolation, because
yes.
we know what that does to the mind. So I'm glad that you're really shedding light because I honestly, even just hearing you discuss that, I had not thought about it in that sense. I know of it, but to
Yes.
hear you say the words financial abuse, and it's very, very important. So I'm glad you are giving us real life examples. You may go on,
So
please.
I'm gonna take a moment here. Yeah. So this is a bonus.
Yes.
You don't have to pay for me for this one. This is a bonus.
Okay,
Have you ever
go
heard
on.
of a thing called the levels of competence?
Levels of
So levels of
competence.
competence is a process that we go through to learn anything. Today
Mm-hmm.
we are learning about elder abuse.
Mm.
So if I achieve one thing, maybe two things, maybe the second thing should be that somebody leaves this thing consciously aware that they are incompetent or that they are now competent when
Mm.
it comes to preventing, when it comes to noticing, when it comes to participating in the solution.
Identifying,
Yes,
identifying
that
such.
identifying, and then you participate in the solution. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the levels. For we all start out unconsciously incompetent, so we don't know what we don't know. But so if we are specific about this subject,
Mm.
just to the comment you made there, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know
Absolutely.
that these things happen. We don't know how big in terms of prevalence. We don't know how serious this issue is.
Mm-hmm.
We all start there. So
Mm.
we are unconsciously incompetent. Now, somebody who is ready to learn, they take the step which we call consciously incompetent. Now, you are aware of
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you don't know some things. And anytime you put yourself in that mindset, you are ready to learn.
Mm-hmm.
When you are aware that, you know what, just the statement you just made, Gloria,
Mm.
when you say, what, I did not think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
In that statement, you are ready to learn. You are
Absolutely.
availing. So you are now consciously incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know that there's a lot that you don't know about this subject, but the way to use that information is that now that you've found out that, okay, there's a lot about elder abuse that I didn't think about,
Mm-hmm.
what to do with that is that you should take the steps now to address that gap that you've had about this issue of elder abuse. So I pray
Mm-hmm.
that we're inspired to learn more about this. One of my colleagues calls it the hidden crime, one of the most hidden crime,
Mm-hmm.
child abuse or domestic violence, violence that happens within those closed doors. So
Uh,
be mm,
just to jump in a little bit about that, Eddie, tell me from your experience once again, dealing with, talk to the victims. I want the victims to
mm,
really say, Eddie is talking about me. Oh,
yeah.
it is me. The victims, how do they identify with this? Or when do they decide? And what do you advise in this sense right now? And just in the same spirit, Mirembe again says, verbal abuse also occurs, but it leaves no physical scars. So
Yes.
someone is listening for sure.
Yes,
Just talk to
yeah.
the
Let me
victim
remember. Oh,
now. Talk
actually,
to the
that's
victim,
Pastor
please.
Peace. Yeah, Pastor Peace. Yeah, God
Oh,
bless your soul. Pastor Peace is also a counselor, so
oh
she
nice.
would have come across these kinds of conversations in her course of work.
Mm-hmm,
What would I say to the victim?
mm-hmm,
First of all, I would say to the victim that it is not okay. It is not okay that somebody would violate you,
Mm,
because you would not be okay. Now I've turned this coin to the other side
mhm,
as I answer your question. It
mm,
is not okay, my dear friend, my dear listener, that you will let somebody violate you, even though they are your daughter or your son or your spouse. It is not okay that you would let them violate you, because you would not let a stranger do that for even once.
absolutely.
We have gone into this pattern of, thinking, for me, that's kind of how things are in this house.
Mm,
That is not okay. So I'm talking to the victim. It is not okay that we are okay with being violated. And I'm not saying here that this is a very important message for me. I'm not saying that the person who is violated is to be ever, this is a very important one for me, ever blamed for the abuse. No.
mm,
This word is to empower or to encourage, just to answer your question, to encourage this person to really put it down somewhere in their mind that it's not okay that one goes ahead to abuse them one time, two times. One evil is even enough.
mhm,
Yeah, one evil is even enough. That would be my message to the person who is being on the receiving end of this abuse. How about what else can be done to speak up? I can't
mhm,
thank you enough, Red Cross and Artisans and Artist and Development Network, for really living. You have practiced what we are trying to talk about.
mhm,
You have spoken up, and I
mhm,
encourage the people who are receiving on the receiving end of
mm,
abuse to get into the habit of speaking up.
mm.
You'll be amazed how many people actually care. You'll be
Absolutely.
amazed how many people actually care when they find out that, oh, you guys may not know, but what I endure in my home on a daily basis is ABCD. People will care. People will care, even if it means that this person has to face some consequences.
Mm,
Because usually the one of the obstacles to reporting is the fear that, what am I gonna do? It's my grandchild. If I
mhm,
report him, if I report her, then maybe they're gonna go to jail, or they're gonna guess it is okay if they have to face some consequences.
mhm,
Because guess what? If you don't even train them that way, that
mhm,
our behaviors will give us consequences, you're painting for them a picture that is not actually realistic. Because when they go out there in the world, that grandchild that you hold so dear,
mhm,
that band of joy, when they go out there in the world and they do this exact same thing they're doing to you, I want you to know that they will face a consequence,
absolutely. It's
and they will be
keeping them
maybe in shock.
accountable.
Yeah,
Keeping them accountable.
you're
It's very
doing it for you,
important.
but also you're doing it for them. You're training them to be respectful when they go out in this world, to earn their check.
Yes, and just ready to jump in a little bit in terms of that, you know, our proverb where we say, "Akatbakin kakatsirkato," you have to bend the tree when it is still a little bit younger,
Yes, yeah,
shaping the mind. Some time back, I read something that said, women are not there to
mm,
raise the men, you know, the young boys in the men that were not looked after then. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
it
And
does, yeah.
it hit home when I saw it, and I was like, that is very interesting. And so
Mm.
you talk, I love it that you said you're not just assisting them now, but when they go out in the world later, how will this impact them?
Yes. So this is us now motivating and inspiring the victim
Mm-hmm,
to take some action, to take some steps
mm-hmm.
when these kinds of things happen, so that they take care of themselves, but also they're also helping this person to live a better life in the future. So the
Wow.
process that I was taking you there quickly,
Mm-hmm.
the other stage would be to be consciously competent. Now in this stage, you have
Aware.
acquired some, you are aware that you are aware.
Absolutely.
Like, especially now after this conversation, I hope people don't, once they click exit, they don't say that they don't know that these
Mm,
things are happening, that domestic violence is real, that these incidences are real. And once now you know that, you proudly take part in the people who are taking the steps to end the the violence. You
and
make a conscious
just
decision. Yeah.
to tap into a little bit more of who you are as a family intervention worker, I want to
Mm.
talk more in terms of the children that you've interacted with.
Yeah.
Let's hear your perspective in terms of how this has impacted the children that you have encountered in your work.
Yes. So I know earlier you had wanted me to speak about the impact of these kinds of things on the children who see them unfold. So I have two kinds of children in mind. The one who is not the one perpetrating the abuse, but is watching it unfold. Now, one of the most difficult places, Gloria, that any child should never be in is to be put in that place of I need to protect grandma. I need to protect grandpa. So when children in the home see this kind of violence or this kind of abuse unfold, what they consciously take on, when we talk about family systems, they take on the role of the protector. Children should not be the protectors in any home. But as they watch this person they dearly care for, they dearly love, they assume this role. Okay, now I need to protect grandma because now look what brother, or look what the other person.
What mommy is doing to
Yeah,
grandma, what
yeah.
dad is doing to grandpa.
I need to protect grandma. So that is one of the impact. So this assumed role of a protector, which should never be given to any child. So if you are not aware of how you are affecting the children in this home, I want you to know that they are very, very attentive to what you are doing. So you think maybe you're doing it to just this old person who now for you maybe has become just somebody to deal with instead of somebody to live with. I'm gonna make another comment about that when I talk about culture. But if you thought you were violating just the old person, you are also impacting this child who is watching this. You're giving them a burden. You're giving them something too heavy for them to carry, because now they have to assume this role of now I need to protect. I need to be doing something. You might see them running to grandma, grandpa, giving them too much hugs or very repetitive showing of checking in. Those are telltale signs. Or when that checking in is too repetitive, it's a sign that something has
Something is not right somewhere.
something is up. Yeah,
And they're
because
trying to keep up I like that you use the word checking in, because that's what we do. You check in.
yeah,
How are you, grandma? How are you, mommy? How are you, daddy? That's very interesting, you say. Now talk
yeah,
about the
these are the
other
patterns that
child,
we
the
see.
one that is the perpetuator.
The perpetrator. Now,
Yes.
Gloria, believe it or not, I know that when we talk about abuse, when you just look in general at the services that are available, it's like pulling teeth to find services that are targeting perpetrators. Most services that are available, no matter what it is, whether it is sex trafficking or whether it is uh, intimate partner violence, most forms of abuse, the services that are out there are that targeted to the victims, not so much the perpetrators. So this is my call up to you. I know that Mandina, our boss,
Yes.
is her name Mandina?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mandani
Mandani.
Shireen.
So I
Yes.
noticed that in her email, which is something I really want to speak to, she highlighted that something about social justice. So for us to use this opportunity to speak, also to call out on action, civil action from the authorities to ensure that we do have some services that are targeting the perpetrators of things like this. Because if we have done a lot of work that targets victims, but if the situation is still continuing, it means there's a gap somewhere. There's a gap somewhere. So for me, I would identify the gap as also we need to do a lot of work with the perpetrators. With the
Yes,
perpetrators.
I also have a comment here, which in the same spirit, and Brayo says, also when children watch abusers, they learn from them, they
Hmm.
thus creating future abusers.
Yes.
So the
So
impact is not just the present,
no.
it's also about the future. And
So
as
in
they
family
continue.
systems theory,
Yes.
which is one of my modes of practice, there's something that called intergenerational legacies. So there are some things that you find in some homes, and they have been there for generations and generations. It is so true what my brother Brayo there is speaking about. Sometimes it's abuse. Sometimes it's certain behaviors like drinking or kind of sex abuse or sexual abuse.
Absolutely.
You tell me how it is the case that you're going to find a home and the story. Every generation there's somebody who has been abused sexually.
Mm-hmm.
That can be random.
Mm-hmm.
So it is these things that we do in the home. We are thinking we are impacting only the present, as you said. I want to borrow that word, but
Yes.
we are really impacting even the future.
Wow, Eddie Jumba, what an informative talk, I must say. I'm learning a lot, and I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking we need to do this again. So we might have to look into that. Thank you so much, first of all, for taking your time.
You're
We're just
welcome.
gonna once again, if you're just tuning in, this is the Break the Silence in COVID-19 as we share, discuss, and talk about the prevention of elderly abuse and domestic violence against women, especially during this lockdown. As you've heard the numbers are going up. It is crazy. But we are very grateful to the Artisans Development Network for thinking about such a concept, for talking about this, as well as the support of the Red Cross Canada. We cannot thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a little break with Parameter once again to take us through, we are marinating on the information we just heard, and we're going to come back later with a Q&A. So all the questions, some of you are in our inbox. I look forward to sharing with Eddie these questions, and he will be giving you particular answers. You're most welcome once again. Thank you so much for being with us. Please share, like, follow us on our YouTube, on our social media, and in the same spirit, of course, I would like to acknowledge our board of directors for Artisans Development and Network, Gisha Productions as well, for being behind all of these. Let's talk about our partner agencies. I'm talking about Positive Community Development. Thank you so much. Creative Joys. Thank you so much. Chocolate Films. Thank you so much. IDRF, thank you so much. Ryerson University, we would not have done this without you. Trios College, thank you so much. University of Toronto, we appreciate you. Diversity Cultural Association, we thank you so much, as well as Swara Jangan Music Academy and many others. Without further ado, this is Parameter Kara. Thank you. Beautiful Paramita Kara. Once again, thank you so much for blessing us with such a lovely performance. Of course, very effortless, very effortless. Great job. Somebody says graceful Paramita. Thank you so much. Once again, just to take us a little bit back in our discussion with Eddie Jumba before we dive into our Q&A. Oh, Paramita, I have another comment here from Nebi Dita. Very nice performance, Paramita Kara. Great job, great job. I also want to take this opportunity once again to acknowledge the team behind this series. I'm talking about Shireen Mandani. Thank you so much. That is our director and our person behind all of these. Manal Hussein, thank you so much for your assistance. Our take, the person behind this event going on smoothly, Mr. Brian Kezara Nkoyoyo, we acknowledge you and your hard work. And all these graphics you're seeing, great job. Bless you, regulars. Thank you so much, my dear. America Lee, all our social media. She's our social media expert. Great job. And of course, Team Gisha Productions. Everybody, as you've been seeing the PR, I applaud you and we thank you so much for leading us to this moment and all the other workshops that are going to be happening during the course of October and November. Now, we are again discussing elderly abuse with a psychotherapist and family intervention worker, Eddie Jumba. Just to remind you, in our talk, he was talking about, what does it mean? He's talking to the victim and saying, it is not okay that you are being assaulted. And he also talked about the types of elderly abuse that we were discussing. The main one that caught my eye is the financial abuse. That is not something that we have heard discussed, I would tell you, at least personally. Maybe I knew about it, but I never really knew about it in terms of how he has shared and discussed about it. So to all you grandchildren who are doing this, that's not nice. That's not nice. We're talking about emotional abuse as well. And of course, unexplained physical abuse. He was giving an example of the AADN video that we saw at the beginning, where Rose actually assaults the grandma. So those are some of the things that we are discussing in here. And I just want to remind you that as of the 14th of December in 1990, the UN General Assembly established the 1st of October as the International Older Persons Day. Did you know that? And that is my question. The whole of October, we are celebrating the elders. We are saying, thank you so much. Without you, we probably wouldn't be here. But this is my question to the new generation. Have you kept in touch with your grandpa or with your grandma during this lockdown? How much did you check in with your older persons in your family? Did you check in? So I'm glad we're having this discussion. I'm just going to go and dive in immediately to our Q&A. So Pastor Eddie, if Brian, if I could have Pastor Eddie back here on the screen and we talk about some of the questions. I have a question here in our inbox, and this person is asking, just so I'm clear, they're saying, how can relatives in the family help to stop domestic violence? This is particular. How can the members of the community, members of the family, they may not be the perpetrators, like you said, or the victim, but how can they assist?
Yes, thank you. Beautiful question. Beautiful question. I like that this person is definitely tuning in, because what we are talking about is not some incident that happens at the hands of some boogeyman who jumps from the bush and comes and violates grandma or grandpa. We are talking about things that happens in closed doors. If I'm to say to this person who's asking the question, if anyone can help about this situation, it is the relatives. If anyone is able to do something, it is the relatives. How? By keeping in touch, because you won't know what you don't know. You won't know that these things are happening, and they won't tell you. They won't tell you. But if you keep in touch somehow, it won't take you too long to know that something is off here. Something is off. And once you catch that something is off, be curious. Be curious to engage this person in a conversation about what has happened. And once you find out, you're gonna call it what it is. We are calling it abuse today on purpose. We're not calling it culture or those things. Yes, there are some culture factors that can contribute, but they're only contributing factors. There are some other factors which I wanted to also talk about, which we call them contributing factors, really, or precipitating factors, like illness, like dementia, like mental illness of the abuser, the mental illness of the person perpetrating. All those are contributing factors. But once you see that the incident is happening, First of all, let's call it what it is.
Absolutely.
There's a thing we use in behavior modification. We call you name it to tame it. Name it to tame it. We're gonna call it what it is. It's abuse. It's evil. It's a
No quotes,
violation. No,
no,
no quotes.
and there is no level. You might say, but it was just a shove. It
Yes,
was just a simple shove. There is nothing like it's a simple shove.
it's a violation.
It's a violation.
It's a violation.
I like that.
Use this litmus paper, if I can remember my little chemistry. Your
Mhm.
litmus paper is that if a stranger would not take it, it is not okay that you do it to the person that you live with.
Perfect. Perfectly and well said. Another question here. I hope you're taking some notes as well. How can one be how can one be knowledgeable about domestic violence against the elder, women, and children's abuse when one encounters a victim? I think now let's say
Mm.
how I probably might understand this question is if I see it, I am not in the family. What am I supposed to do? Because at the end of the day, if I see somebody doing something to their grandma,
Yeah.
how do I acknowledge it and how do I
Yeah.
deal with it as
Okay.
somebody from the outside?
Yes. So I'm gonna put on my lens now as a child protection worker,
Mhm,
which is there's a lot of work that has been done around prevention of child abuse.
mhm.
Right now, if you didn't know, I want you to know now. According to the Children's Act, right now, all of us have this thing we call the duty to report. Duty
Duty
to
to
report.
report.
Duty to report.
Mhm,
That is on all of us as residents of Ontario or
mhm,
Canada for that matter. But
mhm,
it's a kind of a global thing that when we see actually, you don't even need to have any kind of evidence.
mhm,
All you need is suspicion. Right now, the law says that the Child Protection Children's Act, all you need is a suspicion. That's all. Because you are not equipped and trained to do investigations, don't worry about that.
mhm,
You suspect, you report. Once you report, let Eddie and them let them do that difficult work of investigating.
mhm,
You let
mhm,
them do it. So when you find it and you're suspicious, right at that point, you
mhm,
have a duty
mhm,
to report it. So you might be a relative or you might be whatever your role is in that
mhm,
family, or you might even be a stranger. But when you see it, then we're gonna name it. We're gonna call it abuse, or we're gonna call it a suspicious behavior, and then we are going to report it. There are many places where we can report these kinds of things. But if you have to, you report it to 911. They will know how to direct it. They may
mhm,
not attend to it as an emergency,
mhm,
which they should, if you ask me, but
mhm.
they will attend to it. There are many
Absolutely.
deaths that have come out of violence in the homes.
Mhm,
Actually, some statistics in the US they say that violence, when you take the number of phone calls that come to the police in terms of people being violated,
mhm.
there are more cases that happen in homes than on the street.
Wow, that's sad.
It's sad.
It is such a
It's
sad
saddening.
reality.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Pastor Eddie, I want to take this moment and say what a pleasure it has been. Thank you so much for how insightful this conversation has been. I can tell you I have learned so much and I want to know more. It's because it's very enlightening because at the end of the day, this talk or this series is about empowering the person watching now and the person that is going to watch it later to say, I can tell that is abuse and I'm going to do something about it even if it's simply reporting like you put it together. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Artisans Development Network and the Red Cross Canada, I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Eddie Jumba, our speaker for today. Thank you so much for your engagement and everybody that
Thank
tuned
you
in.
for having me here.
It is such a pleasure. Thank you so much. And people are saying thank you as well here. I want to take this opportunity to say we hope to hear from you soon and I look forward. So do you have any last words, Eddie, that you'd like to put out, please?
Last
You
word,
have
no,
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yes.
If you want to rank who are the perpetrators according to who perpetrates the most, it is in this order: children, spouses, grandchildren, and professional caregivers.
Wow.
You and I can do something about this. Absolutely, we can name it
Mhm,
to tame it. Let's call it what it is. And when you do that, you will not only be fixing a momentary situation, you will
mm.
be fixing a generational situation. And God will bless you as you do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon, Eddie
You
Jumba.
too.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, there you have had it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for following us. To the Arts and Artisan Development Network team, great job. I applaud all of you. To the team, Brian, our amazing take. What a great job you have done. Gisha Productions team, thank you so much for all the PR work that you've been doing. We applaud you once again. We encourage you to follow us on all our social media platforms, as well as we encourage you, if you've got anything you want to know about Artists and Artisan, please visit us or send us an email at info@artistandartisans.ca. Well, I want you to be on the lookout for our next workshop, which will be happening next Saturday, the 24th, at exactly 2 p.m. I promise you, it is one you don't want to miss. A lot of information. We are here to equip you, but the job is yours to do. You listen and you choose to do something about it. My name is Gloria Gift Nankunda. It has been a pleasure. And until next Saturday, I'll see you soon. Take care. Cheers.